jumla uamuzi wa Seneti kwamba waliokubaliana nayo pia si tukubali. Nani asiyekuwa rafiki yao ni nani? Watu wa kaunti hii wanataka kujua Seneti inajua yanayoendelea katika kaunti yao ama hapana. Watu wa kaunti hii wanajua kwamba katika majadiliano ya watu wachache kuna mazungumzo ya chini kwa chini ambayo hao hawahusiki. Leo wana nafasi kusikia wazi wale wanaoitwa madaktari, wanaoitwa maprofesa, wale ambao ni walimu, wadhihirishe uwezo wao wazi mchana kadamnasi ya umma. Ni wapi ama ni shinikizo zipi zinahakikisha kwamba wanapata haki ama wanapata nafasi ya kujieleza, kwa sababu Senate ni jumba la kutetea ugatuzi. Iwapo viongozi kama MCAs wamekata kauli kwamba lazima Pilato awape nafasi wasulubishe Barnaba ama wasulubishe Yesu, sisi ni nani, Mheshimiwa Spika, tuje hapa tuchukue nafasi yao kana kwamba hawana akili, si watu timamu kuamua hatima yao? Mheshimiwa Spika.
Senator Fuller, you are out of order to the extent of that particular statement.
Naomba msamaha, naomba kuondoa. Lakini kabla sijakaa, Mheshimiwa Spika, watu kwetu usema fisi aliambia jiwe, japo umenyamaza lakini umesikia. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Senator Asige.
Thank you very much, Speaker. First of all, I'm not too sure why Senator Kajwang would have wanted to block me from supporting my whip. However, he is very well aware that I am a musician, and an award-winning musician at that, and my voice will be heard one way or the other. Mr. Speaker, please
Order,
I will sing, but I will sing on Friday 3rd at Orchid Lounge for all of us. So please come. That's where you'll find me singing this week. Mr. Speaker, I support this motion. And I've heard arguments about promises that have been made in the first impeachment motion, and now they want to be fulfilled here. But, Mr. Speaker, I will remind the House that this is not the second motion, this is the third. If a promise was supposed to have been fulfilled, it should have been done so in the impeachment of the DG of CIA. That has now come and gone, so for me that does not hold. Second, it's also been argued that the same members from the majority side are being recycled in this committee. However, Mr. Speaker, to me, that sounds like an internal wrangle, an internal communication and conversation that should have been had with senators from the majority side, with their leader, and not something that should be brought to this House as part of the debate, because Mr. Speaker, Meru does not want to know who is being recycled or not. Meru does not want, the governor does not want to know, and neither do we, Mr. Speaker. I think that is something that should have been lobbied and persuaded internally for the majority side. Mr. Speaker, I also believe that committee is the correct way to go, because interrogations will be had, and and the evidence, thank you, will be combed through in a much more succinct way than if we are sitting here throwing mud at each other, slinging at each other in terms of our debates, and then, of course, wasting the precious time of this honorable House. Mr. Speaker, I just want to reiterate the importance of giving somebody, in this case, the governor of Meru, a fair hearing, and that will be done if, in my opinion, 11 people sit down, put their heads down, and focus on the evidence and interrogate this matter to its conclusion. And thereafter, the House will have an opportunity to vote either for or against whatever the committee decides. Mr. Speaker, I want to again reiterate that I support the motion, and I thank Senator Kajwang for giving me, even though not in the first instance, this instance to do so.
Senator Mutenda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I rise as a delegation of Meru to completely oppose this motion. One, Mr. Speaker, I want to state that as a new member in this House, it gives us an experience on matters plenary. because as the mayor had promised last time, this was the way to go, so that even as a house, we can have the plenary experience. Further to that, Mr. Speaker, I have noticed that even in this motion contribution, I am the third female senator to contribute in this motion. This being a female governor, we want plenary because we want an opportunity to be able to have a feel as women senators, to be able to understand, is it leadership issues, is it other issues in this county? That is why we want plenary, so that all the voices of all the women in this house can be heard, so that we can be able to make the right decision for the great people of Meru County. You look at the list for the committee, the 11 committee members that have been put. I've had, if my mind serves me correctly, I think I've had only 3 female senators. We want a bigger voice as women, so that our voices are completely heard on the contribution that we are going to make. When the people elected the honorable governor, it was not about not knowing that she was a female. We want as female to be respected. So we want our voices to be fully heard. They can only be heard completely through plenary in this house. So I continue rising and supporting that we go the plenary way, so that completely we execute the issues of Meru extensively, massively, for the benefit of the people of Meru. The governor has been impeached again. It saddens me, because we were in the first line with Senator Gloria supporting and being happy that the governor has survived. Now again, it has come back. As on this particular platform, we try the plenary way, so that we get now to understand the real issues. Also as leaders, as female, to understand the deeper issues. The only answer is on plenary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kavindu.
Asante Bwana Speaker kwa kunipa hii fursa niweze kusupport hii motion ya kwamba hii impeachment ipelekwe kwa committee. Na Bwana Speaker, nimesikia wengi wakisema ya kwamba hii impeachment motion ikipelekwa kwa committee haitapata haki. Hii inamaanisha kwamba zile petitions zote na statements na motions zinaletwa hapa na zinapelekwa kwa committee hazipati haki. Hazipati haki kabisa. Zinapata haki, ninaamini zinapata haki, na kwa hivyo Bwana Speaker, nina support hii motion ipelekwe kwa committee ili watu wa Meru waweze kupata haki yao, na pia Governor Kawira aweze kupata haki yake, na wawe na wakati wa kuwasikiliza vizuri. Bwana Speaker, nimekaa kwa committee ya impeachment mara mbili. Hii ya Kawira imekwisha, na ingine ilikuwa ya Western, ilikuwa ya Northeastern. Bwana Speaker, pale kuna wakati mwema sana wa watu kusikilizwa. Kama ni governor asikilizwe, kama ni malalamishi ya MCAs na watu wa Meru pia wasikilizwe vizuri kwa makini. Na kwenda kwa committee haimaanishi ya kwamba watu wa media hawezi kuja pale, watu wa Meru wakaweza kufuata kabisa kile kinatendeka kwa committee. Mimi niko kwa committee ile ya Bomb Blast 1998, na kila wakati munaona kwa media, kwa maana tunaita watu wa media pale kuja, itakuwa wazi hata kwa committee. Nina support iende kwa committee. Asante Bwana Speaker.
Senator Wamatinga.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise from the onset to oppose. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am quite perturbed by the mathematics that have been done in this House. I thought, Mr. Speaker, sir, that a bigger number will give us a wider base of knowledge. Mr. Speaker, sir, 11 members cannot and will never possess the knowledge that the 67 members in this House must have. As has been mentioned by colleagues, Mr. Speaker, I do not want to repeat that this is the second time that the governor will be coming here, and therefore It is very important that the whole nation, indeed, and specifically women in this country, get to follow the issues so that it will never be blamed on the Senate that it was a gendered issue. Mr. Speaker, sir, the only opportunity that we have is to open up for everybody, for all the 67, including our colleagues, the women, so that it will be said that the Senate did justice to the people of Kenya, to the people of Meru, and most importantly, to our daughters who are also aspiring in the future to become leaders. Mr. Speaker, sir, when I hear the names of the 11 members, I must admit that we do not have two sets of brains. That one you leave when you're going to the committee and the other one that you take when you're going to the plenary. Mr. Speaker, we use the same brains. Whether we are 11 here in the House or we are the whole House. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is important. This is an emotive issue and we must consider the weight it carries by going the plenary way so that the whole Republic of Kenya will know that indeed this senior house, this superior house has the composition to deliver justice not only to Kenyans but of course to the future generations. And I want also to be very future-centric. We need to give the confidence of all our daughters who aspire to become leaders that indeed the House of Senate can deliver justice by opening this so that it will be discussed in clear daylight for everybody to take home. Mr. Speaker, I oppose.
Senator Mwaruma.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to support the motion by Senator Lamolekina. Firstly, I would like to say, Mr. Speaker, that both ways, plenary way and committee way, are provided for in the standing orders. However, Mr. Speaker, one of them is better than another in terms of how we approach the proceedings. Mr. Speaker, when you go the committee way, we have an opportunity to have an in-depth understanding of the cases because we interrogate the documents better when we are fewer, Mr. Speaker. We had opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to go through the same petition of Kawira Mwangaza, Honorable, when we were led by Senator Boni Khalwale, Dr. Boni Khalwale. And I think the work that was done in that committee was a sterling job. We looked at the documents very soberly, and we came up with a finding that the allegations were not substantiated. When you went to the committee way in the case of Deputy Governor for Siaya, again the committee that was there looked at the documents and there were some allegations that were substantiated. But again, there was opportunity when you came to plenary again to overturn the findings of the committee, and Honorable Odol was let off the hook. So, Mr. Speaker, I think both ways are okay because they're allowed in the standing orders, but it's better when you use a committee because then we can interrogate the issues much better to have a close understanding and a better understanding of the issues. Mr. Speaker, when I saw the list from the majority side, I knew we were set. It was a poison chalice because the same members who had participated in the other petition for Kawira Mwangaza were the same people who are put in the committees. So I knew they were set so that they can be disenchanted, so that they can be disenfranchised and vote against the committee way. So I think, Mr. Speaker, I would be waiting for the vote. But most likely, if we go the committee way, then you can give the people of Meru the justice that they require, Mr. Speaker. I support, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chute.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Let me use the word of Senator Mwaruma. Thank you very much for noticing the issue of the 6 members. And Senator Ledama should have known this. And I think we don't need to waste a lot of time. Mr. Speaker, Article 181 is very clear. It talks about the impeachment of a governor. Standing Order 80B1 talks about special committee. B2 talks about the plenary. Mr. Speaker, 7 governors were impeached since 2013, starting from Governor Wambora, Governor Chepkwony, Waititu, Anne Waiguru, Mike Sonko, Mohammed Abdi from Wajir. This is to notify Senator for Machakos. We don't have a county called Northeastern. We have a county called Wajir. That is where Mohammed Abdi comes from, was impeached. And the latest governor to be impeached now is Senator Kawira Mwangaza from Meru. And also, we had an opportunity to have our guest here, Deputy Governor, Dr. William Odwol. William Odwol went through 11-member, Martin Wambora, 11-member committee, Chepkwony, 11-member committee, Anne Waiguru went through 11-member committee, and also Mohammed Abdi went through 11-member committee. And the latest one, the previous Governor Kawira went through 11-member. And Waititu went through plenary, and also Governor Mike Sonko, Sonko's impeachment went through plenary. Mr. Speaker, these methods are all okay. And I don't want to say I will support it or oppose it, but I would want to ask our brothers on the other side, let us not argue on this. Let's go plenary way, because it's an experience for some of us also to learn this process for new members like me and others, and those members who didn't go through this process. I will request kindly, let's follow this process and have plenary way. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kajong.
Mr. Speaker, as I rise to comment on this motion, the leadership of this House, and those are the gentlemen and women we have put in the Senate Business Committee, should spare us this agony that we are going through. Mr. Speaker, this debate has not helped to educate anybody. It has only helped to expose the bias amongst the judges sitting in this House. Senators will be sitting as judges, and the bias is clear. Everyone who stands on my side supports. Everyone who stands on the other side opposes. And yet we have not even heard the case. We have only read the charges. Mr. Speaker, in future, I want to encourage the SPC, because that is where the numbers are balanced, and we've got our leaders that we trust and the leaders that we have entrusted with a mandate to bring us a formula that will not be subjected to debate. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, the leader of majority referred to standing order number 80.
What is the point of order, Senator Ledama?
Mike. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise on standing order number 80, which is the standing order that we are prosecuting. And I would not wish to disrupt my colleague and brother, who I respect quite a lot. But is the distinguished senator from Homa Bay in order to suggest that the House Business Committee can make a decision which is clearly stipulated on how that decision should be made in our standing order? Mr. Speaker, this House, the House Business Committee, deals with the calendar of the House. Matters are resolved. In fact, when you read, Mr. Speaker, you clearly indicated that this is a decision, a resolution of the Senate. The House Business Committee is not the Senate. So, Mr. Speaker, I would like to persuade my brother to look at the standing order and not point aspersion on the House business, but call upon the entire House to amend the law as well as amend the standing orders, so that a formula can be brought which will not solicit the debate that people will need to decide that people have already made up their mind. So, Mr. Speaker, I'd like you to find my dear brother out of order.
Senator Kajwang, the decision as to whether to go the committee way or the plenary is a decision to be made by the House. The SBC can only facilitate a member wishing to bring a motion on the committee. In this regard, the SBC facilitated the tabling of the motion by the Senator for Narok. But the decision ultimately is supposed to be done by the House.
Mr. Speaker, because it's a matter of interpretation, I do not necessarily have to agree with you, Mr. Speaker, because if you look at Standing Order number 81B...
Senator Kajwang, the chair has ruled.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will not challenge your ruling. But what standing order, and I'm not challenging your ruling. I am proceeding with what I wanted to say.
Proceed,
that
please.
the standing orders, the only thing that requires a resolution is a special committee. The plenary is the default mode of operation of this House. If you want a special committee, you bring a resolution. You seek a resolution of the House. Otherwise, by default, this Senate is supposed to process impeachments in plenary. Special committee is an exception that is acquired through a resolution of the House. And I'm not challenging, Mr. Speaker, I am not challenging the tabling of this motion, because this motion seeks the resolution. Yes. So there's nothing wrong with the motion. But the default position of the Senate is to prosecute in plenary so that all of us can be present. Mr. Speaker, I want to finalize by saying that let us be extremely careful so that those people in the county assembly, in Meru, and in the entire nation does not start looking at us through the coalition colors and through the coalition formations. This debate has been fairly poisonous, and it is exposing some bias that might be prejudicial to what we will be dealing with in the next couple of days. Mr. Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. Senator Ledama. Senator Ledama. Order. Order. Senator Chirange. And I need Senator Kajwang. Okay. The mandate of the Senate is to prosecute this matter at the plenary. However, the Senate, in its own wisdom, can decide to form a committee. Yes. Senator Chirange.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to oppose the motion from the onset on the three reasons. One, Mr. Speaker, the trophy and the defenders of devolution today in the afternoon, Mr. Speaker, sir, goes to the great members of County Assembly of Meru. Mr. Speaker, I hope many MCAs should benchmark with the wonderful work that the MCAs of Meru are doing. They have been very consistent and patient, and I want to laud them for taking the bold step, Mr. Speaker. You know, unfortunately, governors have made most of our MCAs as their partners in bad governance in counties, Mr. Speaker. This should be a warning to many county governors that when you have MCAs who play their rightful role of oversight, Mr. Speaker, then it is very important. So I allowed, Mr. Speaker. Number two, Mr. Speaker, there are reasons as to why Standing Order number 80 and Section 33 is very clear. Mr. Speaker, when we prosecute either by committee or by plenary, Mr. Speaker, I want to invite most of the colleagues who have never had the privilege and rare opportunity of prosecuting to plenary, Mr. Speaker.
What is the point of order, Senator Eddy?
Freeze my time.
Mr. Speaker, I rise with the point of order of limiting debates. Mr. Speaker, the Senator for Nandi has just prosecuted on this matter conclusively, stood in front of this House and gave a judgment on the work of MCAs and on the personality of the governor for Meru, which in his own wisdom, what you read as charges that were forwarded before us, the governor stands guilty. Mr. Speaker, the debate that we are having here is whether we are going to prosecute these matters on principle in committee or in the plenary. Is Senator Cherargei in order, Mr. Speaker, to make a judgment on substantive issues that we are yet to discuss as a House, Mr. Speaker? And Mr. Speaker, you in your ruling, Mr. Speaker, I find this one grossly disorderly, Mr. Speaker. Given that you had given Senator Cherargei a lot of warnings, Mr. Speaker, and I think that he's doing this deliberately, Mr. Speaker, perhaps to actually disregard the orders that you're giving, Mr. Speaker. I think you should find him in order, Mr. Speaker, if it pleases you so, and throw him out of this house, Mr. Speaker, because he's reducing this house to a mere theater of jokes, Mr. Speaker. I rest my case, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Cherargei, I gave the guidance when I was giving the communication. What is before you is a motion to pass a resolution for special committee. Either you're for it or you're not for it. The substance of the impeachment cannot be the subject matter of any senator's contribution here. It's either you're opposing and you give the reasons why you think the plenary will be a better forum to handle this matter. Kindly avoid delving into the substance of the impeachment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm well guided, but in the words of Burning Spear, there is a saying that we are not all that stupid, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to borrow in the words of Lucky Dube, Mr. Speaker, the reggae, that justice, fairness, and social equality should be the cornerstone, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the reason I'm saying is we need to ensure that there are principles of natural justice. Mr. Speaker, plenary, Waititu case, Songo case, among other governors that we listen to, Mr. Speaker, through plenary, it gives opportunity to new members to learn. Because Senate should be the learning curve to expose them, Mr. Speaker. The committee way is limited because at the resolution of the committee, I had a misconception and misleading the House at some point by some members that saying Senate will have the second bite on the cherry. It does not have, Mr. Speaker. Because when the committee sits and agree that governor is not guilty or not guilty, Mr. Speaker, then that matter ends there, Mr. Speaker. So we are ready to listen to the plenary way as we listen to the tunes of guitar, Mr. Speaker, so that we understand. Be very keen and be very to listen, Mr. Speaker. So I propose that we go to plenary way. I have been the champion of plenary way on the floor of the House, Mr. Speaker, so that we have opportunity, Mr. Speaker, so that Senator Crystal Asige, and I want to inform members, Mr. Speaker, for benefit, because I rarely give out my advice pro bono, Mr. Speaker, but today I do it for free. Mr. Speaker, you have opportunity to cross-examine, to analyze, to look at the documentation, Senator Okiya Omtata, so that when somebody moves to court, the way Senator Okiya Omtata moved, Mr. Speaker, they will not question that Senate did not consider, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I oppose. Let us go to plenary way. And I thank my chair, Mr. Speaker. He is always brilliant. Senator Moses Otieno Kajwang is the man to watch.
Senator Mungatana.
Mr. Speaker.
Senator Sifuna, I can only pick a senator from this side whose name is on the dashboard. As we speak, the names on the dashboard are all from this side. So if you wish to speak, proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to say something which hasn't been said, that you see, and honorable members who are practitioners in the court, Mr. Speaker, when a witness appears before you, you have the benefit of looking at that witness. You see the eyes, you see the demeanor of that witness, you appreciate even the voice in terms of presentation, whether that person is actually telling the truth. You have the opportunity to feel that witness. Now, since this Senate is going to be sitting as a court, Mr. Speaker, it's fair, and I'm trying to, appeal to the legal minds on the other side, that Mr. Speaker, since we are sitting
what is the point of order,
as a court,
Senator Mungatana, kindly yield.
I will yield.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I wanted, it's a point of clarification. Is the good Senator Mungatana trying to imply that people who cannot see will not be able to prosecute a matter? Is because we know very well that we even in Kenya have a judge who is blind, and he does a fantastic job and he does not see the witness's demeanor, their facial expressions, or anything else in terms of body language. So, Mr. Speaker, I would like some clarification from Mungatana if that point in his argument is actually factual. Thank you.
Senator Mungatana,
Mr. Speaker,
be sensitive on this matter.
I hardly wish to engage my very good friend, because we come a long way with the old man. So I don't want to go that way. But even if you have challenges in terms of visual challenges, Mr. Speaker, you still, when the witness is before you, you feel the voice. You feel it. And Mr. Speaker, especially for people who have been in this court for a long time, you can actually tell whether a witness is telling a lie or telling the truth. So, Mr. Speaker, my point, which hasn't been said, is that we want the court, the entire Senate, to have the benefit of the witness. I want to see Kawira Mwangaza, because the last time I never saw her. I never heard anything from her. I just, the committee sat and then said she was okay. I want to see her. I want to see what is the problem. How does this person who is disturbing the entire Meru, how does she look like, Mr. Speaker? I just want to see. I support that we should have plenary. I oppose this motion. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Karungo. Senator Karungo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I must thank you because I landed back today from Angola, where you had appointed me to represent this country at the IPU Assembly. And that shows that you have confidence in me. Mr. Speaker, the same thing I can say, whoever put my name on this motion to be a member of the 11-member committee has a lot of confidence in me. Because, Mr. Speaker, I really was part of that committee previously. Maybe probably I bring institutional memory, and probably I know a thing or two. And that's why I'm standing here, Mr. Speaker, to support this motion, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have to support it because I believe the committee work is supposed to investigate and, of course, substantiate the allegations. Now, how does a plenary investigate, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, I believe in the rule of law, in processes, because I know one day, one time, I'm going to be here, Mr. Speaker. What I'm trying to insinuate, Mr. Speaker, the only problem...
What is the point of order, Senator Cheriot?
Mr. Speaker, wouldn't it have been, I'm just curious, I've heard Senator Karungo say, how does the plenary do an investigation? Then my question to him is, how will you find out if you don't give yourself the chance to serve in a plenary? Because you've had the opportunity to serve in a committee. Do not be victim of the misinformation that is being peddled on the floor. I have told you as your leader, and I cannot mislead you, that there is nothing that you can do in a committee which you cannot do in plenary, including questioning the witness.
That is more of a point of information than a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that information. I hope you freezed my time. Mr. Speaker, Senator Chute
enumerated very well those who went through the committee and those who went through the plenary. May I inform this House that those who went through the committee, they are still in office, or they never left office. Those who went through the plenary, they are home today, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, so, but my issue...
Order. If you have information to pass, you know exactly what to do.
Mr. Speaker,
Senator.
before I'm informed, I am standing here to say that I believe in the committee way. The only problem with the committee is when they find out that grounds are not substantiated, we don't discuss that report. And that's why I have a bill that is in your office, Mr. Speaker. Probably it will be here, whereby we should always be going through the committee. But either, whether they find substantiated or not substantiated, it must be brought to the plenary for scrutiny so that we can go through it, all of us. But a committee will always do a good work by writing to offices. Now imagine, we want to stand here as a plenary and I want to investigate myself. Do I write as Senator Dhangwa or do I write to the Speaker for the Speaker to write to that office? But a committee has a chair.
Senator Roba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to contribute to this motion before I decide whether to oppose or to support. Mr. Speaker, I was privileged to have served in the first impeachment as a committee member, and quite sincerely, I hold a favorable view that a committee will do justice to this impeachment process by getting the opportunity to be able to look in depth into the issues. However, Mr. Speaker, I was disadvantaged. It was unfortunate enough the behavior that was portrayed during the first impeachment by members of this House. And members of this House were people who are not members of the committee who really went ahead to give even derogatory statements directly in the face of committee members in the most disrespectful manner, without any justification whatsoever, that has really put a lot of question mark on the diligent investigation done by the committee and the decision that the committee undertook. And eventually what came out is a situation that manifested a position of distrust within our own members here. And I want to go on record for purposes of, for the benefit of the people of Meru County, for them to understand we are not prosecuting anything at the Senate right now. We're only trying to agree on modalities of execution of the responsibility before us, and as such, there's no predetermined position. We're only agreeing which both ways are legal. I incline, because of that bad experience and the position of distrust that was portrayed by members of this House, that maybe for the benefit of them getting to understand the treacherous work that the committees undergo, to give them the opportunity for that to be executed through the plenary as suggested. Both ways are legal, and Honorable Speaker, I am not responding to my brother Kajwang, but there is nothing wrong, with holding different views, in terms of whether A or B, in terms of what is constitutionally allowed. And we're only taking that position. That is my take, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. I oppose.
Senator Akenyi Beatrice.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to support the position that we go the committee way. One, Honorable Speaker, from the presentations earlier, one of the senators indicated that we should give new members an opportunity to also get the experience of the committees. And Honorable Speaker, I've seen in the names that have been forwarded, Senator Sige is one of them. She had not been a member of an earlier committee, and so I want to support. That will be a very good opportunity for her also to experience the committee way. And Honorable Speaker, that should also follow that a number of us that are new in the next time will also get an opportunity to experience the committee way of dealing with impeachment. And Honorable Speaker, the second reason why I want to support going by the committee is that committees are also...
Order, Senators. Senator Miraj.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The committee will also ensure that the matter is dealt with clarity, Honorable Speaker, because there will be fewer members, less time is spent in the deliberations. And so, Honorable Speaker, I support the committee way so that we also want to see the committee should also intensely study how over 3/4 of MCAs would vote against the governor. And that can only be determined by intensively looking at the matter in a more, where less members are. I therefore support the committee way, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Veronica.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. I rise to oppose this motion for the reason that Standing Order 80 provides for the procedure for removal of a governor. It provides either for plenary and provides for a special committee. Mr. Speaker, when I look at the functions that are laid out in Standing Order 82A and B, Mr. Speaker, the function remains the same for both the special committee and the plenary, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, just in line with the message you read to this House as you were detailing the charges that have come from the Meru County, it was clear, Mr. Speaker, that when Senate resumes as plenary or as a special committee to consider the charges that are levied against the governor, Mr. Speaker, either the special committee or the plenary will have the function to investigate the matter, and it will suit as a quasi-judicial body, Mr. Speaker. That means it will not be ordinary debate. It will be a body that will be investigative in nature. Any document that is presented, nothing will stop the Senate, the plenary, Mr. Speaker, from questioning any document, taking evidence, Mr. Speaker, calling and cross-examining any witness who appears before the plenary or the special committee. That is why, Mr. Speaker, I have found a bit of submissions that have been brought to this House almost not in consonance with Standing Order 80. There seems to be a misunderstanding. Some senators are thinking that when Senate recedes to discuss or investigate this matter, they will be operating as a normal debate. That cannot be further from the truth, Mr. Speaker. And if, Mr. Speaker, the plenary is not good enough, then the special committee is not good enough. So if the plenary is good, if the special committee is good, then the plenary is good enough, because the special committee will be drawn from the same body of senators, Mr. Speaker. It's not outsiders coming in here. It's the same group of senators, Mr. Speaker. When it is in the plenary, Mr. Speaker, it gives an opportunity to many more senators to bring in their perspective, raise all the questions, interrogate the matter that is before the House, Mr. Speaker, and it brings a richness that comes from the diversity of the number of senators who will be sitting here. That is why, Mr. Speaker, I stand to oppose that motion and say that both should be treated equally. And what the plenary or the special committee will need to do is observe what is provided for under Article 50 of the Constitution to render a fair process to the governor when she appears here and to those who are complaining against the governor, Mr. Speaker. And for those reasons...
Senator Karen Nyamo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I have listened very carefully to my colleagues who are supporting the motion to have this process done in a committee. And I cannot state a single reason. They say no process is better, but the committee is better. Mr. Speaker, barely 1 year since Governor of Meru, Governor Kawira Mwangaza, appeared before the Senate on an impeachment motion. She is back again. And Mr. Speaker, the day that it was ruled in the County Assembly of Meru that the governor had been impeached, headlines were flowing. The conversation was national. And Mr. Speaker, such a matter that has elicited such interest, such national interest, it is proper as a House that we make the decision to have the plenary process because it is more transparent, it is more inclusive. Kenyans want to know what is happening in Meru. And this process is going to give even an integrity to this House because it is going to be open. Nothing is being done behind closed doors. And Mr. Speaker, a motion that Sifuna supports with so much vigor, I cannot be part of. Senator Sifuna, sorry. I must oppose it because for reasons best known to me and my other colleagues who agree with me. So, Mr. Speaker, we have precedents have been set before of successful plenary sessions that executed impeachment processes. Successfully, some saved the governor and some sent the governor home. So, Mr. Speaker, let this House rise to the occasion and do what the country is expecting of us, which is to make this process as open as possible to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Miraj.
Mbona? Asante mstahiki Bwana Spika, na mimi nasimama kupinga hoja hii na kubaliana na seneta mwenzangu Tabitha ya kwamba sisi kama wanawake tutakuwa wachache katika kutoa mwelekeo wa impeachment hii. Kwa hivyo mimi pia naungana na walio wengi kusema hiyo hoja iletwe hapa tuisikize sote kwa pamoja. Asante.
Senator Gloria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a staunch defender of women and women's rights, I stand to oppose the motion that has been tabled by Senator Ledama. Mr. Speaker, I've been on record talking about fair hearing. I've been on record talking about transparency, Mr. Speaker. And I believe wherever Governor Kawira is seated and watching and following, I believe that I speak on behalf of her thoughts today, that she wants to come to the public finally to defend and to tell us what is really happening, Mr. Speaker. And plenary offers her that opportunity, Mr. Speaker. As women leaders, we are tired of people insinuating that we are flower girls, insinuating that we are being protected. Let her come to plenary, Mr. Speaker, and defend her leadership and defend what she thinks or she assumes is good governance, Mr. Speaker. Because as women of this country, women leaders, Mr. Speaker, we are tired of being assumed. So, Mr. Speaker, I support that we go for plenary. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I want to say this, that I really want to question, since the last report was tabled of Governor Kawira's impeachment, how many of the 67 senators have actually read that report and can actually tell us that these were the grounds of letting her go? Mr. Speaker, we all know that we trust the committees to do the job and we trust their leadership, Mr. Speaker. And so therefore, when the report is tabled, we trust that the committee has done a good job. But for once, Mr. Speaker, especially for us new senators, we want to interrogate all these questions that are being raised concerning her impeachment, Mr. Speaker. And I stand here, I'm saying this as a staunch defender, a devoted and committed woman leader who really supports women leadership. We would like to see Governor Kawira in plenary so that she can be able to speak on her own behalf and even defend women leaders who are defending her out there. And if she's found guilty, Mr. Speaker, I will be the first one. I'll be the first one to say this woman must go home. And if she's found innocent, Mr. Speaker, I will be the first one again, yet again, as we walked with her down these corridors, to walk with her and show people that women leaders can be given a chance and they can deliver. So I don't think that there's an issue of what we are debating. Let Governor Kawira come to plenary and defend her position. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Sige.